All right, folks, we've heard from Ben Stiller, so this is now a settled matter. Speaking down to Somalians, to Somalis, is verboten. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Great to be with you. Yes, Ben Stiller, the latest Hollywood celebrity, the latest actor, the voice of common sense, of reason, of enlightenment. This intellectual giant came along, posted late yesterday, Somalis are not garbage. Immigrants and refugees from anywhere are people like you and me. Anywhere. What does that even mean? That's not true. Objectively, it's not true. My ancestors, my parents, my grandparents, great-grandparents came from what is now the Czech Republic. At one point, it was Czechoslovakia. Before that, it was Austro-Hungarian Empire. Have you been to Prague and have you been to Somalia? If you compare the two, where my people are from doesn't resemble in any way, shape, or form where Ilhan Omar is from. I hate to be a jerk about it, but this is just where it is. I'm sick and tired of pretending that this multicultural lie is true. It isn't. People from different places are different by definition. And by the way, the thing I love too is the people that are proponents of mass immigration. You saw this pop up last week with Piers Morgan in his little chitty chat with Tucker Carlson. And yeah, that's another thing I have not yet rolled my sleeves up on. I don't know if I'll get to it today. With everything else going on, but regardless, at one point in the conversation, in his defense of immigration to Great Britain, which of course everybody knows objectively has gone off the rails, Piers Morgan says, yeah, but I really like curry. And so, I trade all that for a bowl of tasty curry. So he'd tell that to the young women raped, savagely beaten, threatened, some killed, in working class areas of Great Britain where Pakistani grooming gangs were allowed to run amok. At least Piers Morgan has a bowl of curry. And this is my point is, of course, is on one hand, they will admit that these cultures are radically different from ours. Look at how good their food is. And then when it comes to arguments about this, what's going on right now in Minnesota. Yeah. Somalia, you could call it. What's going on there, basically warlord type behavior. The way that they destroyed their country has been transported into ours. And we're supposed to pretend that this is just some big coinky-dink accident and correlation doesn't prove causation, that every single one of these people implicated in $1 billion fraud are from this one particular community, are from a, as Trump calls it, an S-hole country that has been a defunct place since well before 1990. Now, this brings me to an important point of something else I'm sick and tired of hearing about, which is, friends, what the hell is this vetting thing that I keep hearing about? Vetting. If I hear that word, I'm becoming allergic to it. In fact, I may break out in hives the next time some smug talking head on television talks to me about vetting. It's not vetting. Okay, how would you propose, if you're an advocate for this, if you think, listen, Sam, hey, bringing people to the country, we are, we have open arms. This is America. We've got the Statue of Liberty. We welcome, the huddled masses who have been persecuted elsewhere, whatever the story is. Big open arms, come to America. Here we go. And I think pretty much everybody I talk to on the left that advocates for this sort of, doors wide open immigration policy will always say, but obviously we're going to vet people. It's important. We're going to vet. And it's what they say every time problems with immigration come up. So the $1 million question is, how the hell do you vet somebody from a country that doesn't keep any records? I mean, Somalia, look, since the early 1990s, at a minimum, Somalia has been a failed state. They do not have, I gotta get this through Mark Kelly's thick head, and by the way, Ben Stiller's, there's no functioning central government. They don't keep any civil registries. There are no criminal records. There's no identity documents. There's no, a credit system. There's no way to verify people. So do you know what they do? I looked this up because I was curious. What do they actually do? And it's the typical kind of stuff you see from the government, that you see from bureaucracy, that sounds good. Like, it sounds like it's going to do something. But if you really think about it just for a second, apply some logic, you realize it's a bunch of hooey. What they do is they say, but, we vet them, we sit down and we interview these people. And you're like, okay. I'm sure nobody's lied in an interview before. Oh, but regardless. And then, Sam, we take their photograph. I'm like, okay, all right, then what? Well, we do biometrics. And this is what you'll hear all the time. If you actually ask them, what is it? Well, it's biometrics. That's what we emphasize, biometrics. We're going to confirm their identity. So they take, I don't care. Whatever, it's obviously fingerprints, but maybe there's some other stuff, retinal scans, whatever. In these U.S. CIS interviews that they do with Somalis and other refugees, but then what? What do you put that in a database for? What, the FBI? It's not going to come up with anything. It's not going to tell us what this person's criminal history was in their home country, because their home country doesn't have any records. And so now we're back to talking about, is there a ranking of immigrants around the world? Are there better immigrants from certain places generally than others? Answer is, at least from a safety perspective, yes. Because if somebody comes here from Sweden, or comes here from Italy, or comes here from Japan, or comes here, I was last week in Barbados, little island nation. They have records. They have civil records. They keep registries of people. You got to ID. Somebody immigrates from a country like that, you can obtain those records from the government. So in my opinion, as seems very common sense, we would want to only accept people from countries where we can verify that they're on the up and up. And of course, that's in and of itself not a guarantee. Now, so again, generally, there's countries we should accept people from, and generally, there are countries that we shouldn't. Is there some exception to the rule? If there's some, a well-known, established dissident, somebody who is familiar to us in a place like Somalia, okay, we can talk about it. But as a general rule, the answer is no. And because these people have come over here en masse, and because they've settled in these areas and built up, political standing, which is now what we're talking about, given this immense fraud coming to light over the last several days in Minnesota, all of a sudden we realize that we have brought the problems that have taken down Somalia, we brought them into the U.S. They're here, they're festering. And the Democrats in Minnesota and elsewhere, frankly, across the country, and the left and the globalists in Europe and elsewhere that have made themselves just have put all this effort into bringing these third world folks into their countries, we're realizing They're doing it for only two things. They're selling out their countries for political power and money. This just really frustrates me. And look, look at the guy, Afghanistani guy, who just walks up and shoots two young Americans serving their country, serving in the West Virginia National Guard, just executes one on the spot and has grievously injured a second. It's just absolutely horrifying stuff. And again, people say, but we screened them. No, we didn't. Because screening from these countries is impossible. All right, quick break. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone, the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash. Phone number, really easy to remember, anywhere you are, whether Nevada or California, 1-800-304-2000.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network, at What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. That's where I primarily post, so please follow me there for up-to-the-minute musings by me, host of the What's Right show, and of course, your friend in these troubled times. Now, say troubled times. You saw that Tennessee special election. The Tennessee special election turned out exactly as predicted. I was did a TV hit over the weekend and was talking about this, and they with one of the things they brought up. Well, I don't know. The Democrat could win it. And then, of course, the Republican wins it. This is the Nashville seat. And the next thing you hear, well, Trump carried this 20 points and he only won it by, 9 points? I looked at this particular congressional district and how Trump had done in the last 3 elections. Did you know, by the way, that the Trump got, I forget what it was exactly, 30-something% of the vote in 2016, and then it went down, let's say 25, 24, 25, something like that, and then it was down to 20. So Trump basically losing large percentages of the vote each election from 2016 to 20 to 2024. I tell you what I'm reading in that district. I'm reading that the bunch of Californians are moving into that district. Bunch of left-wing liberal nut jobs are moving into the district, which is why they elected this goof bucket to run as a Democrat. You see this woman, she's the one who said she hated country music, and she didn't like all the honky-tonk, in downtown Nashville. Just contemptuous liberal Karen is how one might describe her. And so point is, okay, it's a leaning Republican. It's a +10 Republican district. He got +9. A win is a win. And I don't read too much cautionary tales in this. Candidates matter. That's my takeaway here. The Republican candidate was manifestly better than the Democratic one. And I like, let's see, where was this? There was a GOP strategist, Brad Todd, his takeaway on this Tennessee special election. This was on Abby Phillip last night. So the results came in. He says, yeah, Trump carried it by 22 points. Again, my numbers weren't exact. I'm doing this all from the top of my head. About 22 points. Regardless, here's what Brad Todd says about this. I think he's spot on when it comes to the Democrats. And it's something a lot of people aren't bringing up about 2026.
Trump did win it by 22, But Marsha Blackburn in the midterm in 2018, when Trump was unpopular, only won the district by half a point. So Matt Van Epps is going to win it by 9 tonight. And the lesson to take away from this is Democrats picked their own candidate. They had 3 state representatives running. They picked the liberal wingnut, the person who said she hated country music, she hated Nashville, she was uncomfortable with prayer, she wanted to bully state troopers. That's the problem Democrats face in primaries all over the country in 2026, that they may nominate a left-wing nut who can't win the general.
And Abby Phillips Phillip, there's no S. I always want to put an S at the end of her name. But Abby Phillip is looking all uncomfortable when he says this because he's turning it around. Brad's turning it around on the Democrats. He goes, look, you guys are going to pick crazies. This is the X factor in 26. And he's right. Of course. Never is there a group of people more capable at self-sabotage than these Democrats, particularly right now when they've been infected with long TDS, like long COVID. But you can't get rid of it. You just perpetually in your brain despise Trump. You try as you might. You bring in the Kreskin crystals and you get the the essential oils and the diffusers and do your affirmations. But try as you might, you just end up continuously despondent over Trump's presidency. And now with ICE roaming the streets and picking up stray Somalians, you are losing your absolute mind. And so what are you going to do? The knee-jerk reaction is to, in the primary, very attractive is always the loony candidate because that's the one that the media has whipped up everyone, gotten everybody into a frenzy. The media actually is responsible for ginning all this up, and then a Democratic base comes in and votes for people that then aren't later electable in the general. So anyway, that's a thought on this. Now, speaking of people who aren't electable in the general election, remember, it was a moment ago that Tim Walz was the Democrats' choice vice president candidate for the, literally, he was number 2 on the ticket. The Democrats picked Kamala. Well, I don't really know who picked Kamala, do we? But a moment ago, Tim Walz could have been vice president of the United States. Today, Walz finally gave a press conference about the fraud. Boy, this was good. You'll never guess the 2 examples he gives of his leadership in Minnesota or Minnesomalia, whichever one you want to use. Minnesomalia, the 2 examples of leadership that he gives of why people should trust Tim Walz and his administration now.
It's not a coincidence that they're targeting Minnesota. We certainly welcome those investigations. They've been done by all of you, and they've been done here. We certainly want to know that, but it's also the transportation secretary who is threatening to withhold our federal dollars. Look, that's who they are. This is who they are. We welcome anybody who wants to help us. We're fixing it. And I said, Minnesotans know us and our team. We led us through COVID. We led us through George Floyd. We brought our economy to one of the best in the country. And we'll tackle this. Other governors have dealt with fraud. I want to make sure I'm the last one that has to deal with it by putting these things in. If they want to help us, I welcome that. I think they do an investigation, find out. But I don't think anybody in here really believes their motive and their timing is about actually doing something about this. Demonizing an entire population and lying to people about the safety and security of this state. This is not normal. It's not both sidesism. We're solving problems. We're making life more affordable. We're talking about bringing people in, and we're getting this. They need to focus on the war crimes that are coming up. They need to focus on making life more affordable.
Okay. Minnesotans know us and our team. We led us through COVID. We led us through George Floyd. Remember, of course, Tim Walz, his administration was basically locking people in their homes, suggesting that neighbors turn in neighbors for COVID violation rules, going full 1984 in their prosecution of COVID violations. Vile stuff. And George Floyd, well, we know how that went. We'll never forget Tim Walz's wife talking about how she opened the door, the windows, to the mayoral mansion just to let the sweet smell of burning businesses and misery waft into the first residence. Yeah, keep that up. Bang up job, Timmy. Sam Mirejovsky back in a moment. Don't go anywhere. Personal responsibility, something we talk about a lot as conservatives. We preach it, we live it, we teach our children about this novel concept, you would think, to some. Frankly, every time I get on the road here in Nevada, in the beautiful city of Las Vegas, or better yet, when I get on the road, I get on the 15 and I have to drive to SoCal, and I'm on the driving. You would think no one has any manners. You would think no one, or very few people out there, were taught to be responsible. And the real crisis with this is that when something goes wrong, it'd be a real terrible effect, right? You're traveling on the road, you're minding your own business, all of a sudden some, jerk slams into you. And the nightmare that happens from that point forward is unbelievable. One of things that will happen, and a lot of people don't realize, is all of a sudden a ton of phone calls, a ton of letters, emails, text messages. The insurance company harassing you. They might sound nice, but essentially trying to save themselves money. And a lot of people end up upside down on their case. They end up owing money at the end. Absolutely horrendous stuff. Don't do that. Call Sam and Ash Injury Law. They will protect you from this. I can vouch for that because I am the Sam of Sam and Ash Injury Law, and I know this firm very well. I work here every day, together with an incredible crew of people. And what we do here is we make sure you never end up upside down. We make sure you don't get taken advantage of. We make sure your rights are protected. We make sure that you and what happened to you is respected, and that the person responsible for the accident pays what's fair. It's not a lottery win, not a windfall, but you deserve respect. Sam and Ash Injury Law. If you've been in a crash, call Sam and Ash. 702-820-1234. It's a direct line to our Nevada office. And if you'd like to reach our California office, 1-800-304-2000. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. All right, folks, welcome to the What's Right Show. Welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here. Living the life, other than it is cold. I'm not a fan of winter. I'm not a winter person. If I'm in the mountains, that's snow, I get it. It's thematic, it works, but was in the Caribbean last week, 84 degrees. Oh, this is not working for me, Robbie. I got up this morning, I got in the car, it was in the low 40s. I don't do that. So anyway, I'm here. Notice I've got this, those of you watching the Sam Cam, I got my little shawl here. And of course, now that I'm doing the show, I'm heating up finally. I'm finally warm today. So maybe in the second hour, we'll have to take this off. But regardless, you get to all this stuff going on. So the story in Minneapolis and Minnesota, it's wild. And you know what Trump has done? Trump's deploying federal officers down there. He's deploying ICE. He's just going to start picking these people up off the street. If there's any violation of federal law, if they've overstayed their visa, if there's a dot on an I or a cross on a T that's missing, out. Zero tolerance. Trump's decided he's just going to dismantle the whole mess, and they're squealing. And the people most upset about this, of course, are the politicians, because this was their golden goose. I always look for motivations of people. I understand there are many good people on the other side who genuinely believe that open borders is a good thing because they're compassionate. I think they're wrong, but I appreciate where they come from, and they're good, decent people, and I'm not going to sit here and malign them. However, their own politicians taking advantage of it. Trust me. I don't know. Tim Walz, he's not the brightest bulb in the bunch, but him and Keith Ellison and everybody else in the state that has benefited financially from these large donations that they've received from these fraudsters, they understand that if they keep things loose, they will continue to grow in their political strength. And this explains why. Listen, just as all hell is breaking loose with this one scandal where $1 billion was rapaciously, stolen from state coffers in Minnesota. And starting in 22, not under Trump, under Biden. That's how bad it was. Biden, the DOJ under Biden was prosecuting these people. Nobody brings that up, right? Number of these people now convicted and heading to jail. In the middle of this, did you see that Tim Walz unveiled a new and improved social program? I got it here. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up. This is wild stuff. You would think that on the heels of being publicly embarrassed that a state lost $1 billion to a handful of Somalian warlords, that he would come back and say, you know what, we're gonna really examine this new program that we've been working on. We're gonna take a moment and think about it. But they're not. Tim Walz today announced that he was excited about Minnesota's new family and medical leave program. What is it? Male or female, you can take a leave from your job, automatic leave, 20 weeks per year total, 20 weeks. So I'm no math whiz, but I think that's 2.5 months. I'm also a business owner. If I have a case manager from the office here or an attorney that leaves suddenly for 2.5, it's tough. It's really difficult. If a handful of people in my office all left at once for their 20 weeks of paid leave, that would be an extremely difficult thing to handle. Now, how is this being paid for? Well, increased payroll taxes. So employers in Minnesota now have to pay way more money in payroll taxes, okay? The state has added 400 people to work in an agency to administer this program full-time. And the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce has said that almost all employers in Minnesota are required to participate. And it doesn't matter whether the work is full-time, part-time, temporary work, hourly work, seasonal, or covers more than one job. And yes, of course, undocumented workers are covered. Can you just see how they're going to fleece the state with this stuff? The doctors that sign off on these things getting kickbacks. Oh boy, I can see it now. It's so this is just a race to the bottom. Tim Walz is an example, truly is an example of Democrats gone awry. It's full socialism. But behind it, unfortunately, real sinister agendas. They have been working furtively to replace Minnesota's population. Indigenous population's been there for, decades, 100 years plus, literally, and replacing them with, in a very short period of time, a whole bunch of people from one of the most repulsive places on the planet. I'm sorry. It's true. And by the way, Trump gets at it today. You see Trump's presser. People are losing their minds about this. This is him talking about the Somalis. Listen.
They contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you. Okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. we could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it.
Yes, yes, yes. Fix Somalia, please, for the love of everything good, and stay the hell away from here. And I said this yesterday. I'm going to say it again. I'm starting to think that all the pro unlimited immigration people are actually pulling our leg. Of course, look, you're going to hear a lot of different opinions on this from our side. My opinion is that there is a place for immigration in our country. We need immigration in our country, and immigrants have made America great. And why do I say that? Because that's been my experience growing up in this country. I would say that my parents and their offspring that were born here, my sister and I, are extremely productive, contributing members of society. My parents came here legally, number one. And number two, they didn't come here looking for public benefits. Importing people that go straight to mooching is a bad idea. Look at Sweden. Look at Great Britain. You know, I have a story about this. Wait, I got a minute. I got a minute here before we got a break. This is a great story. No, wait, they're looking. I'm going to tell the story when we come back. Why are there? I'll lay it up. Okay, I'll get it ready. Why are there not as many of these immigrants from Syria, let's say, in the Czech Republic? I know something about this. I know the people that run the country, okay? Why are there not as many immigrants from Syria in the Czech Republic as there are in, let's say, Great Britain, or specifically Germany? Germany is a neighboring country. The answer might surprise you. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, be right back. All right. Here's a scoop, right? And it's just an interesting thing. Talking about immigration here on the What's Right show, and the quality of immigrants that we want in this country. The quality, not the quantity. The quality. And for me, one of the qualifiers for people who want to come here is, I think, call me crazy, Robbie, I don't know what you're going to say. You're going to look at me kind of funny when I say this, maybe. If you are here as a newcomer, if you're here on a visa, and then on a green card, no welfare for you. There should be a period of time where you don't get any welfare. You don't just get to come to a country and take welfare, and this takes me to my story. Why are there not as many Syrians in the Czech Republic, where country I'm familiar with? My parents are from there. I have a lot of family there. I have a home there. Why are there not as many Syrians in the Czech Republic as there are, say, right next door in Germany? And one of the big reasons for this is that these folks come to the Czech Republic and are wait, what? You don't have, you're not paying me money to just live? Czech's like, yeah, here's 10 weeks, and after that, see ya. And like, oh, well, no. And they move to Germany. Honest to goodness, this is how it works. What kind of, it's not a color thing. It's not a where you're from thing. It's a very basic thing. If you're coming somewhere just to get free stuff, that is not an immigrant you want. Now, who wants that immigrant? Who wants that immigrant? Who wants more dependent people in the country? Oh, I can tell you, the communist left. And why do they want it? Because they build their political power on helpless people that need the state. Dependence is the shtick of the left. Now, it's not even a shtick. I mean, that's just their whole business plan. They sit down, they go, okay, here's we're going to keep the Democratic Party in power. I know, Sam, we're going to understand. Okay, we're going to import the third world bunch of lazy people who don't want to work, and they'll all be on welfare. And people are exploding about Trump's comment, 80% of Somalis on welfare. Oh, you can't say that. And it's, well, look, I'm not prepared. I'm just going to say Trump tends to be right about these things. So what's going to happen tonight is everybody's going to get the vapors over, everyone's going to have a meltdown over this comment. Trust me, it's going to happen. And then, a week later, somebody somewhere is going to go, oh, well, actually, excuse me, sir, it actually is correct. 81.3% of them are on welfare. Trust me, this is how it typically rolls. The vapid stuff you hear from The View, here's Sonny Hostin talking about this today. This vapid stuff it doesn't sell anymore.
I just want to make it very clear that if this second strike, I feel like I'm in A Few Good Men. Who ordered the Code Red? I just want to make it very...
That's the wrong clip. I thought we had a different... Well, regardless. They were talking about this today. This happens. Folks Live Radio. So the clip was, oh, we got to welcome all these people. They're all so great. They're all so wonderful. They're fantastic. You can't be a meanie. Oh, my goodness, Trump. That was the tenor of it. And, I sometimes think that the good people that go along with this open borders thing are stuck in some sort of a fantasy land like Fievel Goes West, or American Tale, and a hardworking immigrant showing up, starting at the bottom, living in a tenement apartment in New York, and Godfather 2, right? The story, Do you know how hard it was to immigrate here? Do you understand how difficult it was for people to come here? I would actually say my parents had it much easier. They came here in a 747. I think that was the plan. They came here on a big jet and flew to Chicago. The Czech immigrants, the Slovak immigrants, the Poles, the Italians, the Irish, they came a generation before. Were on a ship somewhere, finally got into port, waited forever, unloaded in Ellis Island, got processed like cattle. Vetting, they checked them for disease. They held them there in confinement, processed them, and then let them loose and fend for themselves, essentially. It was horrific. When we talk about immigrants that built America, that's who we're talking about. We're talking about these people who said, you know what I'm going to do? I have an idea. Looks at his wife, looks at his kids, goes, Ma, kids, here's what we're going to do. In 2 months, we're going to America. They're like, huh? We're going to leave our village. We're going to leave our parents behind. We're going to leave everybody behind. We are gone. We're going to America, new life, and we're never going to come back. It's not like today where you can, get a relatively cheap flight if you buy it right and go visit your family. When my parents escaped communist Czechoslovakia, they thought they would never be able to see their parents again. These are tough things, right? I have an important point with it. The point is, the immigrants that have built America, that the left keeps talking about, immigrants built America. You're right, they did, because they were a self-selected group of individuals who were the crazy ones, right? They were like, we're going to go to America, we're going to do this, and and screw the village, we're out of here. This is why America's great. And I will forever defend this on the right against people who legitimately are like, well, no immigrants. There are people that we want here, but not a bunch of welfare queens, not a bunch of warlords from some hellhole in Africa. Sorry, not a good idea. Oh, boy. boy, yes. It's not, and don't even get, yeah, I know, Ray, it's going to be taken out of context to be racial. It's not racial at all. We got to vet the person. They got to come from a country where you can do that, right? And then they can't come here and just immediately go on the dole. By the way, California is the next frontier of this Democrat encouraged and abetted fraud. And guess who's tainted by that? Aha! Gavin Newsom himself, the golden boy and presumed Democratic frontrunner for 2028. This will get spicy. See Mirejovsky here. Be right back in just a moment. Robbie, did you get my text? I just sent you a text. Sam Mirejovsky here, folks. Fear not. I, your favorite talk show host / podcaster, reporting for duty here behind the What's Right microphone. So Olivia, what is her name? Olivia Juliana? Is that who it is? She is a paid Democrat influencer. Like the Democratic Party pays her to gin up support for the Democrats, among young Democrats in particular. Now, so far, am I describing this correctly, Robbie? This is what she is. I don't know. Does she get paid a lot of money? I don't think she gets paid a lot of money. But here's the thing about her, and I don't want to be unkind, but Ms. Juliana is a little bit large. She's rotund. And she'll poke fun at it herself. You know, I have to admit some of her posts are funny. A lot of them are just comically bad because when you have to shill for the Democrats, well, that's a tough road to hoe. Anyway, she put a picture of herself with some kind of a nebulizer on. It's a nebulizer, and it's got it's got the hose, and it's filled with a vapor. And she said that the election results last night were so exciting that she had an asthma attack. I made a little side-by-side comparison of Miss Juliana and Snuffleupagus. It was not kind. I'm not going to lie, Robbie, but I had to send it to you. Do you see the resemblance? They're filing this under things I probably will not be posting on the internet today. But if I do, these are the type of things that you might find following me at What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. So there's that. Yeah, I'm listening to the top of the hour news and the bottom of the hour news. We get the CBS news feed here into my ear from the local station in Las Vegas, and it's insufferable, really. Should we mute? Every time I say I just want to mute it, then it gives me material to talk about. And the reason I say this is because they're still hung up on Pete Hegseth. This is not going anywhere, folks. The Pete Hegseth thing is dead on arrival. It's not going. It's just not happening. But they want to make it happen really badly, and you'll notice that every news story right now that involves Democrats, every one of them, they'll say, yeah, we had welfare fraud in Minnesota. Yeah, $1 billion missing to a bunch of Somali fraudsters. But, have you heard about what Pete Hegseth did? The Washington Post article that broke the story, and I'm using, I got to do it for the sand, air quotes on the broke the story. Did they cite one source? Is that who they did? And they, anonymous, yeah. This whole thing, clown show. Yesterday I read the New York Times piece on this that basically threw cold water all over Washington Post. It's not journalism, folks. This is just a pure sabotage. And the Democrats are using it because it's all they've got. Actually, it kind of makes me feel better about things. Just generally makes me feel better because this is what they've got. I mean, this is it. They're getting desperate. Another hoax is upon us. Now, Steve Hilton, you know who this guy is. This is a Brit who is running for governor of California. Great guy. He is kind of got a really nice, sharp look to him, shaved head, very well spoken. He I think, was he on Fox News? Interesting thing about Mr. Hilton, his parents are both from Hungary. They changed their name from a very Hungarian name that I will not attempt to pronounce because Hungarian is unlike any other Eastern European language. It is in a league of its own. I'm not going to attempt it. They changed their name to Hilton when they moved to England, to Great Britain, to the UK. From Hungary. They escaped communism like my parents. So I have this kinship with Steve Hilton over that because we have a similar story. So anyway, he went on, he worked with David Cameron. He's worked in British politics, moved to the U.S. and is now running for governor of California. That race, of course, is wide open because Gavin Newsom is termed out and will presumably be seeking to become the next president of the United States. So Steve Hilton, this was Monday, posted a video about migrant fraud in Newsom's California, and it's already getting some interest, as it obviously should. Well, it's not firing. Technical difficulties, folks. Hold on. We'll make this work. Watch this. There we go.
A few weeks ago, a business owner here in California told me that one of his new employees asked to be paid in cash, not on payroll. Why? The business owner asked. Well, because the employee from Afghanistan was worried that he would lose his welfare payments. How much is that? $7,000 a month. That is $84,000 a year here in California. So when we look at this massive scandal in Minnesota, $1 billion from the social services system in fraud and corruption, you can be sure it is much, much worse right here in California. We already know that over $20 billion in the pandemic from the EDD scandal was sent in welfare payments to people in jail, on death row, people who are dead. We know that over $24 billion was completely lost on homelessness spending. All that money spent, and we still have situations like this all over California, everywhere you look.
Yeah, well, we want to talk about the fire aid money? You know, what the Minnesota situation revealed, by the way, this happened with going after USAID via Doge, and what is going to be revealed further as we investigate in California is that the Democrats use these causes to raid public funds and then funnel those funds to their friends and family. That's as simple as it gets. They find a cause that everybody agrees is a good thing to solve. For example, in Minnesota, kids going hungry. No one likes hungry kids. We all agree on this. So a couple fraudsters get together, recruit some friends and family, some fellow warlords. They get together and they start a charity that is going to feed hungry kids. But they involve a bunch of Democrats, a bunch of politicians. Everybody gets a little piece of the pie. You know who didn't get any pie? The hungry kids. They didn't get any pie. They stayed hungry. In fact, if you read the indictments and you go through the evidence presented at trial, it's pretty appalling because they claimed they were feeding, hundreds of thousands of people a week, and they were providing like 1 or 2 meals, basically, and falsifying all the records. But I'm getting a far afoot here. The point is, it becomes a good cause. This is the left in a nutshell. The good cause becomes a vehicle for fleecing public funds and using it to build up political power and obviously personal enrichment. And that's what USAID is. And that's why I get hives and I literally break out in allergies all across my glorious body every time I hear somebody go, oh, but this is what doesn't. Now there are people going hungry because Trump and Elon Musk canceled USAID. Because that little Cuban immigrant, Marco Rubio, closed USAID, and now cancer's breaking out everywhere. When the real story, and we just get it, we understand this because we know these people like the backs of our hands. We know, we see that all these causes, whether it was clean water, whether it was AIDS, eliminating AIDS, obviously, whether it was, kids going hungry, whatever the cause was, millions went into it. Wives, brothers, cousins, third cousins, brothers, sisters, / husbands, in the case of some people from Minnesota, all got a little piece of the pie, got $100K here, $1 million there, $2 million there. These everybody thinks, right? Everybody goes, look at these Congress, look at how rich they got. And they all think it's stock trading. You guys are dumb. I don't care how you start with 10 grand in a stock account. It doesn't just magically turn into, $3 million, $4 million, $10 million. So it's not the salary and it's not stock trading. It's all this extra money floating around. And it went in the pockets, honestly, of both parties, politicians on both sides. But predominantly Democrats have milked this, abused the hell out of this. And is it going to be a big problem for Newsom? Ya betcha it will be. Because California is ground zero for this. You know why? Minnesota has money in the piggy, but nothing like California. And the more money, the greater the temptation. And we're going to save the homeless. We're going to take care of homelessness. You know how much money has been poured into taking care of homelessness in California, in these catastrophe cities like San Francisco and LA? Enough money to make Solomon blush. And do we still have a lot of homeless people? You betcha. But at least the Democrats and their friends are living better. Sam Mirejovsky here, back in a moment. Don't go anywhere. More of the What's Right show when we return.
The Sam and Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Just spoke to a client here at Sam and Ash Injury Law. I had a call with Oscar 2 days ago and got on board. And it called me and said, exactly as you say on the radio. It's exactly as you say. Sam and Ash did everything you said that you guys would do. And now I'm not getting the phone calls anymore. I'm not getting the emails, not getting the text messages. And when one of them happens to sneak through, I just say, talk to my lawyer. They're on it. And this client says, Sam, that was really liberating. And you too can be liberated from the mess that follows an accident, an injury, because you want somebody fighting for you. You need good legal representation. All right. And you need somebody who's frankly going to be a little bit aggressive. And, trust me, if I'm, you know me, I'm not shrinking violet over here. So you need a good lawyer. You need an aggressive lawyer. Sometimes that lawyer needs to be a little bit of a you-know-what. Because the insurance companies otherwise will take advantage of you. You may end up owing money at the end of your case. Don't do that. Don't do dumb things. Friends do not let friends do this. So, Sam and Ash Injury Law. The first call after you've been in an accident, call immediately. And by the way, if you've been putting it off for 3 months, call today. If you're listening to this, do it now. If you've got a friend that's been holding off on this forever, tell them to call now. Get it done. Get the advice you need. Get started on getting better today. Sam and Ash Injury Law. Here's the toll-free number, regardless of whether you're in California or Nevada. I'm based in the Las Vegas office. Got great people in our California office. 1-800-304-2000. 1-800-304-2000. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. All right, here's a California representative, state representative, Carl DeMaio, talking about how the Minnesota fraud case pales in comparison to that of what is going on in California. This echoes really what Steve Hilton, candidate for California governor, is talking about. I wonder how many blue states besides California and Minnesota are in the same mess. Listen.
Newsom's welfare fraud is exponentially worse than Tim Walz's, but the liberal media nationally, they're not paying attention. They're not holding him accountable. There's almost no discussion of it. Newsom allowed $30 billion in fraudulent welfare payments to be issued by the unemployment agency, and now small businesses in California have to pay off all of that debt through higher payroll taxes. No coverage of that scandal. And it is much worse than what happened with Tim Walz in Minnesota. Walz is accused of allowing $250 million of food stamp fraud to occur to Somali organizations. And Newsom is sitting here with multi-billion dollars worth of food stamp fraud. His food stamp fraud rate is 13.4%. That's 3 out of every 20 benefits managed by Newsom's administration for food stamps, completely fraudulent. And when it comes to funding left-wing organizations like the Somali community in Minnesota, California is funding all sorts of left-wing NGOs. And a lot of those NGOs are using taxpayer money for politics.
Yes, yes, yes. By the way, on the last point, very important to say this, that these NGOs get millions from the state to help homelessness or help, illegal immigrants or immigrants, any kind of immigrants settle in the state, whatever it is. And those NGOs turn around and donate to top Democrats and to the Democratic Party. This is like the Planned Parenthood example. It's the best example is people are most familiar with. Planned Parenthood gets money from Democrats when they're in power. They then turn that money around, give money in political donations to Democrats, and of course hire the politicians' friends and family to work in the organization, give them big contracts or salaries, and everybody gets fat and happy, including Olivia Giuliana. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, she's the influencer. Sorry, I had a little bit of a callback to the top of the hour. At any rate, Sam, don't be mean. That's Robbie's giving me that look. Don't be mean. Well, I'm telling you, it pisses me off. The whole thing pisses me off because we're sitting here drowning in debt. We've got a deficit as a country. And California, by the way, the budget out there, our friends in California, you guys are drowning in your state budget deficit mess. Not good. And you're having to pay for this waste. And the only reason that it's so funny, I feel so bad. I don't know where we've gotten, and sometimes I think about it, and I actually just start to think it's so crushing. We as taxpayers in these blue states are paying for our own demise. You are being taxed. The tax money's collected, turned around to illegals. The illegals come in. Suddenly they're on the voter registry rolls, whatever. Suddenly their ballots get harvested and collected by some other NGO that your tax money is probably going to. Oh, get out the vote. Blah, blah, blah. That's also a good cause, just like starving children and getting rid of homelessness. And da-da-da-da-da. Now you basically, and these people vote for more Democrats. More Democrats means more of your tax money paying for illegals. So more illegals are there to ensure the Democrats stay in power. And you continue to pay more and more and more in taxes. Meanwhile, your state, your city, and your neighborhood continuously slides into deeper SHI, you know what. And if you're living in a nice little neighborhood like in Minnesota or Michigan, you're looking around and going, oh boy, it's looking like the Horn of Africa. You giddy up. And Trump runs for president, talking about the Haitian communities, going, oh, there's people, catching cats and eating them. And everybody in the mainstream media goes, what? You can't say that. That's not true. Sure enough, pictures emerge of these people eating cats, so picking them up, killing cats. There's video of it. They're catching birds out of the pond. Right? In America. And we're paying for it. What kind of suckers do these people think we are? My gosh. Okay. All right, bottom of the hour here. Don't worry, I got more where this came from. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Making radio great again. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email. At What's Right Sam on X. So I don't know if you saw this. The BBC ran a story suggesting that raccoons are soon to become America's next pet. Well, I was delighted. I saw this a few days ago. I didn't mention it at the time. However, a big national news story today is that a raccoon got drunk, snuck into an ABC liquor store in Ashland, Virginia, got drunk there, right, knocked over some bottles, and then passed out in the bathroom. And there's video and photographic evidence of this brazen crime. Well, thinking back to the BBC story, there's always one guy that ruins it for all the rest, right? Ah, boy. Well, I had to say that. Now, somebody just sent me this, listener. Thank you for forwarding this on to me. I don't see your name, but it's a story here about the Afghanistani shooter, that this guy had apparently been recruited, threatened. It's a story in the Daily Beast. Let me just quickly, got this just in the middle of the break, and I haven't had a chance to fully peruse it. hold on. I'm not presenting the story as true. I'm just telling you that the story apparently came out yesterday in the Daily Beast, and Daily Beast not a particularly reputable institution, so don't fear. It's true, but someone sent this to me. Sam, what do you think? Calling it a stunning twist in the D.C. National Guard shooter. Apparently, according to this piece, the guy was being threatened, was being blackmailed. The relatives of his from the Taliban people from the Taliban were holding his relatives, right, and saying, you got to do this or else. So this is an interesting development. Can I just tell you what I think of this piece? I don't know that it's true or not, but I think that the left is going to put out stories like this to show, look, he wasn't a bad guy. The system works. We vetted him perfectly. Everything worked. He just got into a bad place. He was like the guy, the pizza bomber, right? He was like the guy that had had to rob the pizza place because he had a bomb around his neck. He was being used, an innocent agent used by evil dark forces. And I'm just going to say, I think the argument fails, because now I'm going to say, now I don't want to let anybody in from a country controlled by bad people. So let's not let anybody in from Afghanistan, because the Taliban controls a home country, and they could simply just take a hostage, a family member that remains there, and hold them hostage and threaten them, and then that person, whoever's in the country, could do all sorts of unspeakable harm. What kind of logic is this? And I think they're putting out this stuff. They're not quite thinking it through because, like ghosts of Christmas past. And yes, we're in the month of December, so I feel like I can make this reference now. It's appropriate. Ghosts of Christmas past, we have testimony on the Hill. Here's Senator Hawley back in the day with Homeland Security Chief Alejandro Mayorkas, asking him about vetting immigrants. This was in November 2021. This is the Afghan refugees. This is the Afghan refugee vetting business. Oh, boy, this is not good.
You said 100% of these evacuees are screened. Have they all been given in-person interviews per the normal process?
They have not all been given
Why not?
interviews because we have to be mindful of the fact that we were in an emergency situation to evacuate U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, special immigrant visa holders, and others who...
And what percentage do those, the special immigrant visa holders and American citizens, what percentage of the total tens of thousands did those constitute?
I have that that information for you. If you'll give me 1 minute.
The answer is it's an extremely small percentage. I mean, it's maybe a few thousand out of 60,000 who have come to this country. So my question is, why are you not conducting in-person interviews of the people who have been brought here to this country? Don't you think that's dangerous?
I do not, Senator. I think that if, in fact, there is information adduced that gives any cause for concern, number one, the individual is not brought to the United States.
No, wait a minute. When you say that, I just want to be clear about this. When you say any information, you mean if they are already in our database as a terrorist or a criminal or a terrorist affiliate, right? What about the thousands, tens of thousands of people who aren't already in our database? The people who we don't know who they are, have they been interviewed?
Senator, what we do is we capture their biographic and biometric information. We screen.
That's like a fingerprint.
A fingerprint, a photograph, biographic information, and we run it against our databases in our law enforcement intelligence and other holdings.
But you're not interviewing them, Mr. Secretary. It's not unless they're already in our database that you then bother to interview them.
Cut the tape. I'm not even with Senator Hawley on this. Interview? What the hell's an interview going to do? But you see my point about this biometric stuff and how the vetting thing is just all nonsense. It's complete bullcrap. I want to say the real word. It's just total bullcrap. You have people that simply have no paper trail. And in countries like Afghanistan, totally normal. Countries like Somalia, totally normal. Countries like you name it, third world countries, they don't have it. And so you're like, oh, did you let me run your fingerprints? Oh, it doesn't come with any matches. Oh, we don't have time to do an interview. Well, welcome to America. Here you go. Mohammed, you're in. Abdul, welcome. You know how many thousands of people we have like this right now in our midst? We are screwed. And anybody here telling you, oh, Sam, you can't be Islamophobic. Oh, Sam, you're just being a racist. Oh, you don't. I pray. I pray we're safe. We have brought harm upon ourselves in the name of being what? Nice? Politically correct? Inoffensive? Think about those two National Guardsmen as the guys lunging at them with a gun and blowing their brains out. Think about their families right before Thanksgiving. Think about their families going into Christmas. Sarah's not coming home. She's dead. People die because of this. And I think that's what pisses me off about the Ben Stillers of the world is, to some extent, people who have a really an obscene amount of money can opt out of things. Somebody wrote in, well, you live in a castle. So this was I went through all the comments that people posted because people really gave him hell for his little, Somalis are nice people, don't demonize. Okay. People are like, well, you live in a castle. He goes, I live in Manhattan. Okay, first of all, Ben Stiller has multiple homes, which we as conservatives do not begrudge him. Don't tell me I live in Manhattan. Shut up, Ben Stiller. You may live in Manhattan. I know the way you live in Manhattan, okay? I've described this to you. I have wealthy friends in Manhattan. I know how they live. They have a black car service, right? On call, maybe their own car with the driver. Maybe a security guard or 2 or 3. They're in a doorman apartment building. Everywhere they go, they are driven. If they walk on the street, they've got people with them. That's not the life that you and I live, right? It's very easy for somebody to say, well, just, hey, we let them all in. Fine, Ben, put them up in your house. Put one of the warlords up in your house and see how long that lasts. I was working out this morning. I am pleased to report in my garage, and I was listening to Megyn Kelly's show. And she had a guy on who had obviously served in the military and been talking about how, I think I got this right. I wasn't paying attention 100%. I don't remember his name. I don't remember exactly what his profile was, but he's familiar with Afghanistan. He'd served in Afghanistan. And Robbie, you, having served in Afghanistan, will likely corroborate this. That they could not trust their Afghanistani allies, right? The friends of us, the people that were working with us. With, for example, being around female officers and enlisted soldiers. They would not leave a female U.S. service member in the company of these, friendlies. Why? Because they treated the women despicably. And I don't mean just being rude and misogynistic. I mean, there was sexual assault. They couldn't leave soldiers unattended with our so-called friends. This culture, I hate to burst the multicultural, everything's great. Unicorns, unicorns fly. I think they fly. Forget this. They have wings. Okay. Well, unicorns flying over the rainbows and the pink clouds made of cotton candy. It's fantasy land, right? Why would we import people into this country that are fundamentally incompatible with our society? The guest made a great point. I've made it before. I'm just repeating it here, and I'm glad Megyn Kelly covered this because it's huge. And Robbie, you're nodding and nodding and nodding, so you know exactly this is all true. Now let me take it a step further. Here were people in the military. Here were women in the armed forces, be they officers or enlisted personnel. There were U.S. female military people that were unsafe around Afghan men. Now think about your 12-year-old daughter or granddaughter walking home from school. Your wife, my wife, your mother. I despise Alejandro Mayorkas and every person like him in the government that made this happen. I'm including George Bush in it. Stupid. Don't be Islamophobic. We love our friends. No, it's incompatible culture. Sorry. In Afghanistan, in some of these countries, in Somalia, incompatible cultures. Robbie, I know, break. We're going to do it. Don't worry. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Back in jiff. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, Robbie reminding me of the story from the Afghanistan war. When did this happen, though? This was afterwards. It's in 2016, right, Robbie? And this was a soldier, actually, I believe an officer. Sergeant First Class Charles Martland. It's a Green Beret. He beat up an Afghan police commander for raping a boy. He was discharged for it. One of the things, Robbie was telling me how they were repeatedly told in the military to turn a blind eye to Afghanistan allies raping young boys, the Bachabazi thing, the Chai boys, T-boys, whatever they're called. They say it was a cultural practice. I think about this. It's a problem right now with the left. There's no absolute truth. There's no right or wrong. There's no definitive answer on what is a woman and what is a man, right? Everything is redefinable and fluid. And as such, right, we cultures are relatively good, right? And actually what really matters to a leftist isn't protecting women or protecting children or doing, keeping the vulnerable safe. What really matters to them is the Marxist power paradigm, right? If there's some downtrodden, culture, well, they're actually superior to Western culture, because Western culture, they're the exploiters. What they're trying to do is actually eradicate our culture using cultures that are, broken and destroyed everything they've touched, where child rape is normalized. This isn't crazy stuff, right? This is all documented. This poor, sergeant first class in the military, Green Beret, gets kicked out of the military because you're not supposed to do that. No. They're fine to do that. They're our allies. This Afghan rapist, child rapist, yeah, he was screwing a kid, no big deal. It's okay. It's bad when a Catholic priest does it, but if it's an Afghan ally, that's okay. By the way, you beat him up because in your culture that's unacceptable. Well, you can't do that. By the way, you're out of the military. And I think they had to get Congressman Duncan involved to get this thing overturned. It was a big, big to-do. Now it's sick. The problem is that these were all things that were known to us before we decided to import en masse a bunch of these people into the country. And the gift / miracle of Donald Trump is he just does not give a rat's rear end about political correctness. That's the only way you can fix this. And I can't even tell you, I wish I could sit here and I could say, well, kids, if enough horrible things happen, gosh, if enough of these new immigrants in the country, if they just steal enough money and hurt enough people and do enough damage and attack us enough times, everybody will wisen up. That is not going to happen. And I give you as a case study, the Dutch, the Germans, the Swedes, they seem to not yet be waking up. Glimmer of hope? Yes, occasionally. 51% of the population waking up and saying enough is enough? Nope, no chance, not happening anytime soon. Maybe France, maybe some glimmers in Germany, maybe it's teetering. The last election, obviously, a disappointment. I follow these things. And why do I follow them? I care because I think it gives us some insight what's going to happen here. And I always try to look around corners and see what's coming at us. It's one of the reasons of many that you listen to this program. Now, I think one of the worst things about this, and I saw this, one of the worst things is when the state actually takes its law enforcement arm and tries to work against Trump cleaning up the country. Here's the DA, okay? The DA over there in Minneapolis in Hennepin County. Listen to this wench.
This is Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty. There are reports that the Trump administration is planning to send ICE agents here to the Twin Cities to target our neighbors of Somali descent. This is part of a recent pattern to single out our Somali community members. This is rooted in the idea that if they spew hatred, it will divide us. but we won't let that happen. There are no roving gangs of Somali people in this community harassing, threatening, doing anything to any of our community members. Our office at the Hennepin County Attorney's Office here will not assist in any way, shape, or form in any of these ICE raids. Our Somali community members are what makes Minneapolis one of the finest places in the world to live. We will not let Trump's hatred divide us.
Now, let me tell you something. This lady, Mary Moriarty, county attorney, right, the DA for the Hennepin County there, took a guy, Mohammed was his name, Ahmedimot Billy Muhammad, 28 years old. He kidnapped and raped a woman he met on Snapchat, held a gun to her head, had 2 previous rapes against him, spent no prison time. And he received credit for time served and was released by Mary Moriarty's office. These are people that spend more effort fighting Trump's legitimate work to protect the country than they do in putting actual rapists in prison. This guy threatened to kill a witness. If you read the story, it's sickening. Again, it's all for politics. It's all for their own personal success. And it's warped, I tell you. All right, folks, see you tomorrow.